So at the last point, I was putting in the various cavity closers, and you'll see here I've put in a few. I've also put in these window openings, and just to give you an idea what these dimensions look like, I'll keep it there so you can read across the screen here and take a note of these particular dimensions. These dimensions here, I've made it easier or fairly easy by replicating the same dimensions at the bottom here: 1310, 1800, 1800, 1800, and 1070. Over here, you've got this bit here, just this line here is 250. This opening here between here and here is 920, and this opening here is actually bang on the same opening as it is from this wall to this wall, or this structural wall to the structural wall. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is just going to finish off the cavity closers here. Now, before I'd shown you that this line actually came down to here, but in actual fact, when you think about it, you're going to put your cavity closer in here. This has got to be 50 by 50 to fit in there. So I've actually changed that since the last recording. Okay, because that's going to be 50 millimeters there. The way I had drawn it before was actually 59 by 50. So you get the idea. Just going to finish off putting in the rest of the cavity closers here. So if I'm going to put a cavity closer in here, I'm just going to chuck that one across to there. I can put one in here. I can put one in, just take my ortho off. That pretty much does it. I've got all my cavity closers. There's one there, need to put in. There we go. Again, like I said, I've just taken my ortho setting off so that you can actually see where you're going to put this next. Go all the way around here. I think there should be a window here. There should actually be a window along this side. So we might need to put that in eventually. Okay. So there's those dimensions, and I'm going to send you a PDF of that just now. So I'm just going to pause the video and we'll resume after I've done that. So now that we've done that, I've just taken a couple of dimensions off just to make it a bit cleaner, and we're going to start putting in doors and windows now. Now, the way to do that would be to create a new layer. So we're going to go to our Layer Properties Manager, and we're going to go to this particular symbol, New Layer, and we're just going to call that External Door or External Doors. And let's make that maybe a light blue. Again, we're not really looking at changing the line types just yet. We might come back to that. And then make sure that that's your current layer by giving it a green tick, and then click Close. So I'm going to make this particular door opening. I just want to check and see what the dimension is. If I do a quick dimension across the way, I can see that it's 850. Now, if I say that I had maybe a 45 frame on each side, that would make that 90. Two times 45 is 90. So that would bring it down to about a 760 door, which is okay. It's okay for this kind of opening we're talking about. In reality, you'd probably make it a bit wider. So I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to make a very simple rectangle, and I'm going to start by making that particular frame just about here. So I'm just going to go to Polyline. I'm going to click on here, just on that corner of the cavity closer, put my ortho on, type in 45, and I'll make that by 95. back into the perpendicular to that wall, and then back up to the start. So I basically made myself a rectangle like that. Okay, I can copy that across the other side now. And I'm going to use this point as my control point, so I can just drag it across, copy it across to there, and then hit escape. So now I've got two rectangles, which are going to be the frame. I want to have a door stop. Now, the thing is, do I want to have the door opening outwards or inwards? Just check and see on the drawing here. The door is opening inwards. Okay, so the door stop in that case is going to be here to stop it from blowing out the way. Let's just make that a very simple door stop, nothing fancy. Let's make it about, let me see, say about 22 millimeters that way. And let's try that again. Let's just bring it down a bit there. 22 by, let me see, this could be something along the lines of maybe 50. Okay, so really our door thickness is going to sit in here, if you like. Just going to copy that across to the other side, making sure you use your snap points, hit escape, and then you've got a frame and a door stop. So in other words, our door is going to fit in here. Here's where our door is going to fit in. Okay, but you want to show that as a door swing. Okay, and the thickness of that door is, roughly speaking, that is going to be, should be about 40, well, 37.6. Maybe just make it a little bit, let's make it 40. So I'm just going to use a stretch command. And I'm just going to stretch that to about 3 millimeters. Let's check it again. Around about 40. Okay. Don't want to be too picky in this tutorial. Now, to show the door swing, what you want to do is create an arc. To do that, you want to try and get the dimension between here and here. So let's just check that dimension again. I'm going to type in DIST for distance. And I'm just going to try and measure the distance between this point all the way along to this point. And it's 760. So that means I've got to make, this is going to be my hinge here. I imagine that's where my hinge is, just at that point there. I'm going to make a line this way by 760. Okay, so that's going to be, when I open that door this way, then that's going to be the edge of my door. If I go to the arc command, go down to center, start, end, click on that, and I'm going to make the center of my arc the actual hinge point. I'm going to make the start, if you look at the command line, it's asking you for the start point now. I'm going to click on the start point there. And then if you just move your mouse up towards the other side and click again, it makes a nice arc for you. Okay. So let's say if I wanted to open that door, just rotate it, you can imagine the door doing something like that, you know. And then if I want to make a window, I would just do the exact same thing. I would just go in and do pretty much the same, because you're not going to be too fussy about exactly the window framing size here, because this is a general arrangement drawing. Once you get into the actual detail of it, the manufacturer will determine themselves what sizes of framing members they're going to use, for their door sets and for their windows. So I'm just going to copy this particular rectangle over to here, and I'm just going to do the same across here, just as I've done previously. And rather than get too fussy here about what that window looks like, I'm just going to draw 4 lines. These 2 outer lines are what you would see when you cut through the window and you see the bottom of this particular window. But if you cut through that window, then you're obviously going to see I'm just trying to center that, you're going to see a double pane of glass as well. So we would want to show some sort of indication of the glass. Now this is double glazed, but we're not going to be too fussy right now about the actual thickness of the glass. It's an indication of a window that we're looking for here, okay? We're going to do the same here. I'm just going to get rid of this little dimension here, 600. But we want to make the window come to this point here. So again, we can take in fact, what we could do is we could copy that entire window using a green box. That's our right to left selection. Use this as our base point. And then we've got our 600 window there, okay? Now we're going to put in a door. Now, what you would normally have is, if this was manufactured as one complete screen, in other words, a door and a side panel, you would probably end up having that as a post itself. So we're just going to drag that out maybe by another 30 or something along those lines. So that would be a post. And then we can provide some kind of door similar to this here. Okay, I'm not going to copy it exactly, but it will be roughly along those same lines. So I'm just going to do the same, use the same frame. And again, I'm using my control point. I'm going to just drag that across in a copy fashion to here. And we're going to mirror that to the other side using our mirror command. Okay. In fact, we'll change my mind. What we'll do is we'll just copy this one here. And we can copy that across. So there's a couple of options open to us. We could have flipped it over, or what we could just do is to use a copy command. Same thing again, but I just want to just delete that here, and I'm going to type in distance again, DIST for distance. I'll hit enter before you move on to the next stage. And again, we want to get the distance between this point and this point. That's 780. So again, we want to provide a line from here down the way by 780. And that means that's going to be the center point of your arc. If you imagine this as being part of a circle, the arc works in the same way. So you go to arc, center, start, end. So this is the center where your hinge is. Start is down here. And then we're going to move our mouse up. Doesn't have to be exactly on this point, but just up somewhere around that and click it to finish that off. Okay. Now you could give that door a thickness like you've done on the other door if you wanted to. Nothing to stop you from doing that. In fact, we'll just do that now. Let's make this a 40mm thick door. Down to about here, roughly speaking. Try and just square it off if you can. Okay, don't worry too much about that. Okay. And there's another door for you. So that's going to be the door into the utility room. Now this utility room is going to have a work surface here, maybe a sink It's going to be a small one, mind you, but it'll do for the purposes of what we're looking at. The garage door, we could just make that a very simple frame again. Let's use the frame that we've got up here. Copy. We'll copy that frame and we'll move that one down to, let's move it down to here. We've got an up and over door. It's going to be an up and over garage door, so we don't really need that. I just need to give it some indication that there's a door in there. So we're going to copy that across to the side. And we'll just put in a very simple rectangle in here to indicate that there's a garage door in here. Do that again. Okay, it doesn't need to be anything fancy. It's just an indication at this point because, again, what's going to interest us most are the setting out points here, which I'm going to put in again in the dimensions. Okay, so looking back to our plan again, we've got our garage door just put in just now, and what we want to do is start getting an indication of the insulation in here, and you can see there's a kind of a honeycomb pattern to it on this hatch. Okay, so go back in just to see what we're playing with here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tidy some of these bits up here so that I'll bring that down to here. And I just want to make sure that everything is on the same layer. So I'm going to make sure that this is on the structural frame layer. Just going to tidy this up like that, and probably need to do the same for all of the other points as well. So with that in mind, I'm just going to pause it here and we'll come back once we've done all that. Okay, so what I've been doing here is I've been just trying to tidy up all of these corners here just to make sure that whenever I go to join them, that they're going to be exactly meeting each other right on a sharp point here. What I had before was I had this line overlapping like that, and it wasn't going to give me a nice clean join. So I want to make sure that everything's kind of separate. And what we're going to do now, just going to go around and check to see that all of these are joined up like that. So it allows me to do a very clean join command. You'll see there, that hasn't particularly worked for me there. That's what I'm looking for. I want that to be joined up. I want that bit to be joined up there with that. So that makes a nice clean L shape. And then that one again, there might be easier ways of doing this, but this is the way I'm used to doing it. And then once I've got all these all ready to join up, I type in my command JOIN, enter, and basically what we're going to do is start to go all the way around here, clicking each of these so that we're joining up all of the lines like so. So anywhere where there's a structural frame, we're going to have them joined. Again, so that will be enter for that, so that that ties up nicely. And then enter again to bring back the previous command. And again here, I'm going to join that to that, to that, to that, enter. You'll see it's joined that up. Enter again to bring back the previous command. And we're going to do that all the way around this particular structural frame, the inner structural frame. And you'll see why I'm doing this, because what I'm going to do is then put in a hatch pattern in between these lines. Okay, so I'm just going to join that one there. And that's all tied up nicely. That one. Same again here. Okay, and that pretty much does it. So we've got this one, got this, and so on, all the way around. So we get a nice, neat hatch pattern inside each of these structural frames. And you'll see what I'm going to do. I'm just going to use my insulate hatch. So with that in mind, go up to the layer control panel again and click on insulation. So anything you do from now on, anything you draw will be in this kind of color here. Now remember as well that we made this transparent. Okay, so all we have to do now is just to go in here and we're going to do a hatch. Now it's asking me to pick an internal point or select objects. I'm going to select the objects because all I have to do is actually click on this polyline here and it'll insulate that like that. Okay, so you're selecting the objects rather than picking inside it, you're actually picking the outside of it. You can go ahead and do that for each of these. Now, you'll see there that this is shown as a kind of a crisscross. I could change that to by clicking on it. I could click on it once and then pick out using this little kind of arrow and scroll panel, scroll bar, sorry. Go down to where it says honey. So honey should be in here somewhere. There we go. And it's quite dense. So what you might need to do is go up to this, while you're still in this particular mode, you're still in this kind of function, play around with the hatch pattern and see what it looks like. Okay, so at the moment you're probably seeing this on a, because it's a white screen, it's not going to be so clear. If I change my options, if I click on options here, which is what, I'll just return it back to a black screen. I can get my display going to dark again. Click apply and OK. This gives you a better idea now. You can see there that it's hatched it, but it's not completely in your face. It's going to be transparent enough to give it a soft look to it. And I'm just going to go around the rest of the structural frames doing the exact same thing. Oops, I'll just do that make sure I'm on the hatch that I want. So I'm going to click on hatch again, go down to this little arrow here, and see if we can get to honey, and make that 10. Okay, anything between 8 and 10 should do. And then it's just a case of picking on each of these. Okay. Okay, so I've done that around the outside. I don't need to do it to the inside. Well, I could if I wanted to insulate between the garage. Oops, just come back there again. Shouldn't have done that. Just have to go and do that again. Hatch pattern of 10. Okay, that spaces it out a wee bit more. If you want to make it dense, then you go to a lower number. And now it's asking me down here to select the objects. And we'll leave it there. Okay. This one I'm going to treat separately because what I need to do is I need to actually create a boundary along this wall here, similar to what I did with the outside walls. Okay, so now let's try and get some standard door sizes for the inside, because I really want to standardize my doors instead of having to change the width for each one of them. Let's assume that we're going to have an 826 door. Now 826 is a standard door leaf size. So let's move to the side and we'll work out exactly what we're talking about here. So if I was to say that my door frame was going to be, let's go back to a different layer. Let's go back to my external doors layer just for the sake of argument. If I provide let's say a 45 frame by 95. In other words, it's a 45 by 95 rectangle. And I want to leave maybe a little bit of a gap in between, just a little bit of tolerance so that the door edge is not scraping against the frame. I'll maybe offset that slightly by a couple of millimeters. And then I'll offset that again by 826, because that's going to be the width of the door. Okay, and then we're going to again offset that by a couple of millimeters, and then offset that again. And what we'll do is we'll draw a polyline again. So it's going to be 45 again. (45 by 95). And we're just going to imagine that this is going to be our frame, right? This is the vertical part of the frame you're cutting through. You can imagine if you're standing with two posts to this either side of you, and then up above you, it'll be framed all the way around your head, okay? And we want to make this door roughly, well, it'll probably be a little thinner than 40 millimeters, but just for now, we'll make it 40 millimeters. So we're going to go from here, we're going to go 40 by 826. And back in again, okay? So that's, generally speaking, that's what we're looking at for our door. Now we need to put a door stop on it. And what we're eventually going to do is we're going to make it into another door swing, but this time we're going to make it into a block. Now, the reason we're wanting to make it into a block is because, like we did with the cavity closer, is we want to be able to insert this in all different ways. When I start to tidy up these partitions, I'll have an opening here, I'll have an opening here, I'll have an opening here, one here, and so on. An opening going into the garage door between the utility space and the garage door. So that's what we're looking for. Okay, so let's put on an indication of a door stop. And let's make it something like this. I'm not going to be too fussy here. It's just something to stop the door from opening out the other way. Okay, so let's rotate that by 90 degrees. And then that's where our hinge is going to be. In here, that's where our hinge is going to be there. Okay. And then we're just going to do the same command to go to arc click on the downward arrow, go to center, start, end. So the center is going to be the hinge or thereabouts. Okay, so we're just moving over slightly here. Start, end. Okay, now that's not too bad. Okay, so we're not going to get too fussy about that. That gives us an idea of what a door looks like. And now we're going to make that into a block. So it's BLOCK for block. So we're just going through the same process here as before. Before that, actually, what we're going to do is we'll change this and we'll make this an internal door. So I'm going to just create another layer and we'll call this internal door. Other one's external. Internal door. Probably make that a kind of a brownish color. Internal door. Let's make it a kind of dark red. Okay. Click OK. And that's just the layer that you've created. And then we're going to make that our current layer and then come out of that. So we're going to put all of this, when you select that, you're going to assign that to your new internal door layer. Okay. Make sure that internal door layer is the same as by layer over here. The object color must be by layer just to get you started off with. Okay, some people starting off, and including myself, you know, could end up mucking around with the colors here, and you might end up making that a different color, and you'll start to get confused as to why you're not getting onto the proper color here. Make it by layer. Okay. Right, so we're back to our block command. So it's BLOCK, enter. We're going to call this internal door. And then you must click this pick point, okay? The pick point you're going to click on is going to be here or here, right? Try and make it on the outside part, okay? You might get away with get it on the inside, but I would say the best way to do it is to click on here or thereabouts. Now it's asking you to select the object, so go ahead and select the object. And in other words, we're just going to select that whole door to make it into a block. Once you've done the selection, confirm the selection with enter. And now you see your little thumbnail here on the screen. Okay, we don't need to open it in block editor. Okay, we could do if we wanted to edit the block, but we don't want to. Click OK, and you don't really need that anymore, okay? Because what you can start doing is inserting the blocks by going up to the ribbon and then insert again, and you'll find that you've got your recent blocks. The previous one that you did here was your cavity closer. Click on internal door, and eventually we're going to start to put in our doors like that, okay? Now that one there, you see, I've made that one there for a 95 thick partition because I've made that 95. So I'm going to have to do another door. That's okay because I can use that one for the for this wall. If you remember, I'm going to click on rotate. I'm going to click a rotation angle of 90. Okay, so I could click it there. And it fits in quite nicely there, okay? Not too bad, okay? So I think that was 97, which is why we're getting a bit of a difference. That's okay, we're all right with that. I could rotate that if I wanted to. You know, I could go back to the home tab here and I could use a rotate command or even a mirror command. So let's try the mirror command. No, we'll try the rotate command. Okay, so a little bit untidy, but we'll get there in the end. Okay, so that's the door going into the garage, and then you would just trim these points here. Yeah, do that again. Trim straight into enter. and then just swipe across there. Okay, and that trims the door opening for you. You might need to just drag that one back slightly, but you get the idea. The idea now is that we're going to try and get standardized doors that we can use in various places. We could actually insert a door down here, really, if we wanted to. So again, let's try and put in an outside door, insert. Let's try a rotate 180. And yeah, it's probably going to be about here somewhere. Okay. It says internal door. Yes, it's an external door, but you know, we could change it to a different layer if we wanted to. Okay, so I'm now going to need to get another door type that fits into a 75mm partition here. This one, if you remember, is 95, and that suited that one okay, but I'm going to have to do another one and make that 75. So now there's a couple of ways to do that. And what I could do is I could draw that again. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that across the way because I want to make another door type, right? I'm just playing on the safe side here by copying it across, and I'm going to click on this and I'm going to shatter that into, I'm going to shatter it out of its block state, explode it, in other words. I'm going to explode it. So now I've shattered it into its previous state before I made it into a block. So each of these have just got their separate components again. Okay, so that one's not a block anymore. If you actually hover over it, it just comes up as arc. That just comes up as polyline. That just comes up as polyline. In other words, I've shattered the block. This one here is still a block because it's all been packaged up into a block. And you can see it says block reference there. Okay, now I could play around with that just by simply bringing that in. Instead of making that 95, I could stretch that in the way and bring it in by 20. Okay, so I'll just do that again to give you an idea. That's 75 now. I'll just do that once more for you. What I want to do is maybe do it to both frames. I could go stretch. I'm going to just swipe across this part, no further, but just around about there. Okay. In other words, you're going to try and contract this particular rectangle, or two rectangles in this case, and the other one's at the other side. And you're going to use this as your control point, and you're going to drag it down by 20. So from 95 down to 75. And now you've made yourself, it didn't actually work there, so we'll just do that same again. Bring that down by 20. And that should line up with that. So that's now a 75mm frame. Again, I could just go back now and make that into a block again, and this time we'll call it internal door 75. Yeah, 75 is fine. Got to pick again. So click there and then select it. Once I've done that, I've made it back into a block, but this time it's a slightly different door frame. Click OK. And now it means that I can use this particular block here. And maybe I might want to actually do a little bit of annotation so I know which one's which. You know, I could actually put in here, you know, a little bit of text in here just to remind me what size it is. Okay, I'm going to pause it there because I want now to be able to tidy some of these partitions up, and then we'll start to get more door openings in. Okay, so just to show you how we would insert the rest of the doors, it's pretty much the same idea. This is the one here that we did, which is called door, I think it's door 75, just to reflect the fact that it's a smaller frame. Okay, we could actually copy that in, or another thing that we could do is we could type in I for insert, then hit enter straight away, and you'll get this little panel on the right hand side of your screen. Now, you could actually paste in the name of the door that you've made into a block here, but before you do that, click on this bit here which says rotation. Make sure you've got that ticked, and then if you bring your door into your model like that, it doesn't let you insert it straight away without you moving your mouse around. Get your mouse moving in a nice round circle, and it gives you different options. Okay, now my ortho is set to on, which is why it's rotating at 90 degrees at a time. If I turned my ortho off, you'll see there it doesn't have the same 90-degree control. Obviously it looks a wee bit more flexible, but if I knock my ortho mode back on again, it'll rotate it in various directions. Okay, so that's probably the best way that I can advise you how to insert your blocks. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and making sure that this rotation is clicked here or ticked. We're going to bring one in here, and yeah, it's asking you where you want to rotate it to. I'm just going to make it there. Okay, so just a second click to land it. Again, go back to your insertion panel, and we'll put one in here. Okay, I'm not particularly bothered exactly. Again, click it again to land it. We want one probably about here. Now, the reason I'm going to click it here is because when I go to bring it round, it lands exactly where I want it to. So if I wanted to open the door inwards, yeah, just going to look at my, oh, actually that actually comes out the way. So let's just go ahead and do that. Let's just go, and we'll do that again. Click again to land it, and we want another one approximately here. In fact, these two doors are closer together. So we want another one around about here. In this case, we can place it here and then just swing it around into place. Okay. So you get the idea that you can start to get standardized doors, and then you would just trim down the door openings like this. One there, trim there, trim there. You can see I'm just doing this all in the one command. Okay, and then we'll just pause the video there. Okay. Okay, we'll just realize that we've got a door to put in here, and probably want to change that door around. Okay, so I'm just going to take that door out again. I'm going to type in I for insert and then enter. Brings back the insert panel again, making sure that your rotation option is ticked, and just bring in your door like that. And what we want to do is just that's the wrong way again. So we're going to have to flip that around. Okay, so let's just do that. We're going to have to flip that around. So what we need to do is we need to get an axis between here and here so that we can mirror that particular door. Now, the way to do that is just do a temporary line between here and here so that we get a midpoint bang on that line there. Okay, this is just a temporary line, and you could even draw that axis if you're not sure. Okay, just a temporary line just to give you an axis. Okay, and then we're going to go mirror, and we're going to select our door, enter to move on to the next stage. First point of mirror line, second point of mirror line. Do you want to erase the source objects? Yes, and then enter. Okay, and then escape, I should say. Okay, so that was just using an axis just to flip that particular door over, and now I could quite easily just copy something up just to indicate that there's another door here. Okay, we don't really want to have these clashing, so I might just move that over just a little bit. Like that. Okay. The reason I've got this opening outwards is because you do need an activity space in here, an unobstructed activity space. I think if we were to redesign that properly, we probably want to make that a little bit more safe. But for the purposes of our drawing, we'll just leave it there just now, and we'll trim that. And that pretty much puts in all of the doors that we need. Let's put one more in here. To get from the utility room into the kitchen. And you'll see there that we need actually the other door type. So just take that out again. And we'll go for this one. And then we'll trim that down. Okay, so I think what I would just want to do now is to just get a couple more windows in, and then we'll just we'll stop the video there, and we'll put on a separate chapter for the rest of the work, like putting on dimensions, text, all that stuff. We'll put on to another session. So I'm just going to use one of these windows, and I'm just going to copy that in its entirety out into the screen here, just to allow me to work on it. Okay. Now I can use that window, and I can just make it a bit longer by doing a stretch command. Okay, so I copied that over to here. What I'll do is, first of all, is I'll move it into place on one side. In fact, I'll use the other. So move. And I'll use this particular control point, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch from here, try and place the edge of that box around about here. Anywhere between here is fine, okay, because you're pulling the window away from this point. You don't want to completely enclose the whole window. You want to get past this point, but you want to be able to stretch it from the glass. Enter to move on to the next stage, and then basically stretch it all the way to this point here. Now you know that that's 1800, so we can just copy that across in its entirety, trying to get all of the frame using your control points. And again, we'll knock our ortho setting on here so it makes it easier. And then equally, what we can do is we can copy those two down to here, because we know that they're the same dimension, we know that they're the same alignment. So we're going to copy both of those. And again, we're just going to copy from here to here. And in the same file swoop from here to here. So I've basically copied those two together, right? I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to take a base point, and that will be approximately here. So I'm taking the two all the way down here in a copy command, and I'm going to just basically click it around about there. Okay, I'm not going to be too fussy about that, just to get my windows in. And then when we get to the next stage, I'm going to put in the stair. One more thing, I'll probably just trim some of these bits here. Just try and tidy that wall up here with another trim. Okay, and again, just bring that down to there. You could spend a lot more time just trimming using your trim command, as long as you get the main points. Okay, it doesn't matter if you have these lines crossing each other or crossing past each other. That's not important. But what it does need to do is needs to read as a proper floor plan. You'll see there some lines aren't quite lining up. That's obviously a mistake on my part. You want to try and make sure that everything's connected so that there's no surprises when you go in to try and dimension and so on. Okay. So the next bit of this tutorial, we're going to put in maybe the stairs. We'll put in an indication of where the hot water cylinder is. We'll put a wee bit of furniture in. Then we'll put in some dimensions, room name, electrical fixings, so like sockets and so on. And you should then see it starting to come together. Okay, just take out those two there, and we'll see you in the next part of the tutorial.